Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are going to be responding to a thread. You guys see in the thumbnail that this one is this is a thread here that says the presence of Smurfs does not affect other people's rank or SR, and I'm going to be taking the contrary stance to that. This is not actually a change of my previous stance on the Smurfing issue. I have talked about the Smurfing issue before, and I have linked that down in the description, so feel free to take a look. And the reality is, most people vastly overestimate the number of Smurfs that they run into, the strength of Smurfs that they run into. They write off games that they start to lose as, oh, well, there's someone low level on the other team, so they must be a Smurf. Like, Smurfing impacts the game way less than most people think. And if we were to look at this, like, overall, Smurfs are not stopping you from accomplishing your goals. You can get better. You can get better than these other guys. Smurfs are having an impact on the ladder, but it is not some huge one. That said, if someone is going to take the full on extreme stance of Smurfs don't have any effect on other people's rank, they are objectively wrong. So we will call that out and we will get into that here. But again, I'm not actually saying, oh, it's okay. You guys can just be like, no, it's not my fault. I'm this SR. It's the world's fault. Hey, it doesn't matter really what SR you are. Your SR is a reflection of how much you want to get better. Like, are you able to make your improvements one step at a time? That sort of thing. Get better. But let's read the post and then we will respond to it. So, the presence of Smurfs does not affect other people's ranks. I see many threads over dramatizing the smurfing that goes on in Overwatch. I agree. I agree with that. And I find it quite silly. Sure. Lower ranks claim that they're being held down by smurfs, yet statistical science proves that this is impossible. It absolutely does not. This is because you will get carried by smurfs as well. Okay, I'm about to blow up your whole world. The chance of if I'm not smurfing, the chances of a smurf on my team are 5. There are 5 people that could be smurfing. The chances of smurfs on another team are 6. There's a greater chance that there's a smurf on the other team than on my team. Huh. The presence of smurfs is actually causing me to, over the long haul, lose more games than average. Now, this can be overcome. I can get better than the Smurfs. I can go, hey, I just have to be enough better than the other players at this SR to overcome the rather small but existent odds that there will be a Smurf on their team and not on mine, or there will be a greater Smurf, that sort of thing. Like, I have to overcome that difference, and that's doable. Like, there are 6 people in a game. That is doable. You can do that. You don't have to be better than the Smurfs to move up. But this is a thing where, hey, no, objectively, there is a greater chance, and this is how statistics actually work, of there being a Smurf on the other team than on your team. And that's going to lose you a few extra games. Now, in the long run, can you make that up by being better? Yes, but you do have to be better than you'd otherwise have to be to win those games. Okay, so there we go. Let's go like that. That happens. Even if we entertain the false premise that some people end up 500 or even 1,000 SR below the rank they actually are, which is ludicrous, this would mean the difference between a silver and a plat or a gold and a diamond. This would mean the difference between a silver and a plat or a gold and a diamond or a diamond and a GM. Well, 1,000 SR is different depending on where you are on the ladder. Like, actually, 1,000 SR is like 1,000 SR here is big, but not nearly as big as 1,000 SR over here. But sure, we can go with that. People don't end up 1,000 SR away from where they should be. I'm totally on the same page as this writer on that. But again, they're gonna go. They're being held back by something. Proves that it's impossible. It's just not true. mm-hmm. In this case, wouldn't these people who are undeservedly classified as Smurfs themselves, giving them an unfair advantage, meaning that they should win a majority of their games, as the Smurfs tend to do? And they do. That's just called moving up. Like, when people are somehow 1,000 or even 500 SR differently, of course they overcome the differences and they get there. They don't actually get there as quickly as they would have if Smurfs weren't on the ladder. If they placed too low and they were moving up a fresh account into GM, so they're actually 1,000 SR off of where they should be, then yeah, I mean, they will get through it. But actually, they will get through it more slowly than if Smurfs weren't there. I know this is an opinion that isn't commonly presented, so it will require some introspection on the part of many in order to change their pre-existing views and foster a productive discussion. You're not going to, I mean, the productive discussion you're going to get out of this is going to be my video that's explaining to you why you're wrong. What you're trying to go for here, what you should have gone for, is you can play around the existence of Smurfs. Smurfs aren't significantly holding you back. Maybe that's what you're trying to do with ranks. You're trying to do ranks as like gold versus silver versus GM versus diamond versus masters versus bronze. But like if we're talking ranks in their actual SR numbers, people's actual SR numbers are being held back. There's the 5v6 thing, and that is a big important part. But there's also the fact that Blizzard maintains distributions to their ladders. They've decided that they want about 8% of the player base in diamond. Okay, 8% of the player base in diamond. Great. If you add more accounts, if you go, hey, if one person makes 4 accounts and then they put 4 accounts in diamond, then someone who is just barely at the edge of diamond is potentially going to fall out. Now they're not going to be like, "Oh, well, your account just moved down in SR while you weren't playing." I mean, yes, you do have decay, that is a thing, and it's partially to hide their ability to do this sort of thing. But when they do play again, they will find that, hey, they're getting a little less for the wins, a little more for the losses, that sort of thing, because the algorithm is trying to keep 8% of people here. It's trying to keep 3% of people here. And if we go, hey, there are more SRs in the top half of the ladder than the bottom half of the ladder, that is actually depressing, people's SRs overall. And even if there are more Smurfs over here, say in silver, than there are in the top half of the ladder, that might be increasing the SR of people that are in gold who maybe don't deserve to be, or maybe in gold and they're getting, 20 more points to their SR, 50 more points to their SR than they would have had otherwise. But these people in bronze are actually having their SR decrease. So people are having it decreased. And again, it's not oh, this extra person exists, so you lost 4 SR, that sort of thing. But it is they're doing this distribution, and the distribution is actually doing what it can to go, we're going to have 8% here, 3% here, this sort of thing. So yeah, if you park more accounts in here, that does move things down. It is not a game where, hey, if you're X good, if you are X good, you are in Masters. If it was, we would have more people in Masters today as a percentage of the population than we did back when the game was released. But we don't, because again, this is a distribution system. So having extra additional accounts parked ahead of someone when there isn't actually different people behind those accounts does in fact decrease people's SRs. Again, this is not like some hugely significant, undoable, oh my god, this is terrible. We accept and it's okay that people have alt accounts. But even those alt accounts are having this effect if those alt accounts are being put and kept active, not just parked but kept somewhat active. I suspect if they're totally parked and they're actually not playing that season, that sort of thing, they're not moving the distribution around. But that is how distributions like this work. So we have two aspects, since we're looking at statistical science here, that actually do prove, no, Smurfs are hurting your SR there. That said, again, I repeat, do not over dramatize this or feel like, hey, because there are Smurfs on the ladder, because people have alt accounts, I can't possibly gain SR and there's nothing that can be done and this game is just unwinnable because there's too many Smurfs. They have a much lower impact than most people think, though this distribution impact is actually bigger than most people think. But them being in your games, running into Smurfs, you're running into them way less often than you think you are. You really are. And B, a lot of those Smurfs are like smurfing one rank. And I'm sorry, you kind of have to be able to beat the next rank to get there anyways. And that's kind of always been true. So, like, really not that big a deal. You can absolutely climb through this ladder if you focus on getting better. And it's not some Herculean effort that's been made like, okay, it was the equivalent of lifting 50 pounds, but now I have to lift 500 pounds because Smurfs exist. It's more like, hey, at least in the games, talking less about the distribution, it's like I used to have to lift 50 pounds, and now because there's more Smurfs, I have to lift 58 pounds type thing to move up. Like, okay, fine. It sucks. It's not great, but it is absolutely a doable thing that you're looking at there. So that's really like the main pieces of what matters. And I know some people are going to come back to this and say, hey, the 5v6 argument doesn't work because the thing about the 5v6 argument is, well, that's made up for by the fact that you're not going to have a lever on your team as long as you're not leaving, or you're less likely to have a lever on your team, just like the other team, just like you're not going to have a Smurf on your team because you're not Smurfing. Yeah, cool. Except those are independent factors. Levers and Smurfs are independent factors. Like, yeah, you're that's right. You shouldn't have a lever. You're less likely to have a lever on your team if you're not leaving. But that's an independent factor from Smurfing, and you could, in theory, go if Smurfing didn't exist, you would still have that you're not a lever advantage to your SR. So no, doesn't really work that way. You can say like, oh, hey, that's how it's okay because this is something that balances it out, and that is perfectly fine as something that balances it out. But if we're objectively looking at would your SR be higher, if you could keep that lever thing and not have to deal with Smurfs, it would be. Uh, I don't think it's like, oh, it's some great or terrible thing either way that you keep or don't keep that lever advantage. But independently, that is how it works. Smurfs do cause levers. Yes, Smurfs do cause levers. That is true. But sometimes even worse, the perception of Smurfs cause levers when they're not even Smurfs. The belief that this Smurfing thing is so out of control can cause more levers. Yeah. You're all bad. Temporal is like, you might all be bad. But I think 4,700 players are bad. So hey. But surely bad players are more likely to leave than good players. Tilted players are more likely to leave than not tilted players. I'll grant you that. Okay, let's do a refresh here. I'll catch up in chat in a little bit. Those are really the main points. Like, this is just wrong, and that's sort of the main points that I wanted to make there. But let's read a couple discussion comments here. I think it does impact the match qualities you get. Definitely not your overall SR over time. I mean, it does do your overall SR over time for the two reasons we talked about. Playing Smurfs more than on their main account, but as long as their main account is still considered active and is still playing, it's still having that depressing effect as long as it's reasonably high rank. But yes, this is all true, so it's true. You are not playing against super strong Smurfs most of the time. There's not that many more cheaters. Like, there's some, but not that many more. Okay. I did upvote this one. Yes, this is the 6v5 point. We've talked about the 6v5 point before, including in my other video on smurfing. Okay, those aren't that interesting. Maybe chat's more interesting. So, chat, what did chat have? The sign can't stop you because you can't read. There you go. There you go. Just be 4,500 and you won't get smurfed on. I don't know about that. You will get smurfed on because at 4,500 you will discover that multiple people are putting their account in the 4.6, 4.7 range because they're trying to get multiple top 10 spots on the top 500 leaderboard. So yeah, you'll get smurfed on at 4,500. You have lots of pros who put multiple accounts, try to put them on the leaderboard. That's one of the ways you get attention for yourself, drag attention for yourself, sort of make a statement as a pro to remind the scouts, hey, you exist, that sort of thing. Is upvoting making you gain then? I wouldn't bother upvoting this one. But no, it won't. Look, the brain guy is doing brain stuff again. We do that here sometimes, Adam. It's true. Levers benefit your chances overall. Smurfs hurt your chances overall. Those are true. Those statements are both true. Sure. Carolina says there was a higher chance there was a Smurf on the other team when you were the Smurf on your team. True. I mean, that is also true. The game does do some level of trying to balance the games, and if you're on a crazy high win streak, it's going to go, hey, your MMR is now higher than your SR, and it's trying to match the team's MMR to some degree as well as SR, and it's going to try to find someone to mirror you against. Just like for groups, it's going to go, hey, there's some level of this is a two stack, we'd like to put it against a two stack. This is a two stack with maybe one person in diamond and one person in gold. We'd like to find a diamond gold two stack to put it up against. The ladder does do things like that, and if it has one person who's, on a really, really good win streak, it would like to find someone like that over there where, hey, their SR hasn't kept up with their MMR because they're winning a lot. Can we try and find that on the other side as well? So yeah, that is true. Temporal is saying to beat the Smurf, you must become the Smurf. Maybe, maybe. Mm-hmm. McDillon says, I don't remember who has that take, Jane. ISX both, but what about Smurfs makes but what about Smurfs make you better because you face better enemies and improve faster? I mean, as long as they're a little bit better. When people are too much better than you actually run into the problem of you can't keep up with the pace and it doesn't work. You always want to be working with and against people that are a little bit better than you. That's like the best place for most people to find improvement most consistently. But if someone is 1,000 SR better than you, it's really too much and you really can't make great adjustments in that. I mean, you can still get better by going against people that are 1,000 SR better than you, but it's not really better than going against people that are your level and then moving up to face people that are slightly better than you. There are people who have accounts 1,000 SR or more apart who try equally hard on both. They don't stay that way, James Daly. Unless you're talking about different roles, they don't stay that way. If they keep playing one or both accounts, the accounts equalize, and this has happened countless times. People will say, "Oh, it's this way," and then you find out that they're playing like 5 games a season, 10 games a season. Or they're playing one account when they're drunk, tilted, whatever, and they're playing the other account when they're in maximum tryhard mode. Okay, yeah, believe it or not, the difference between you and tilted you can be 1,000 SR. It absolutely can be. In fact, I'd say that's for most people pretty close to what it is, depending on where we're talking on the ladder. Okay. I think if Temporal just opened the video, read the post, then said "stay plat," that would be the best response he's ever done. Oh, that could have been. That could have been. Uh huh. Temporal's allegedly bottom 500, so he's on the very left of the bill. Yeah, it's true. I'm actually countering the Smurfing pandemic all by myself, guys. I've parked 500 accounts in bottom 500. That's what I've done. I'm that terrible at the game, and that's pushing everyone else up. No, I'm kidding, obviously. Okay. The biggest SR puzzle for you is why average fell from 2,500 to 2,350, and most likely has fallen further since that was announced. I'm not sure the average significantly fell there. Like, I think they actually like that to sort of be the entry point. They sort of wanted that to be the average so people could feel a little bit better, but we'll have to see. Mm-hmm. Saber says, I'm top 100, and it's still my biggest opinion that Smurfs are the worst part of this game. I could hear that. I could hear that. Uh-huh. Originally, Shanghai Dragon players improved at Overwatch, eventually playing constantly against better players now. Um, I mean, the original Shanghai Dragon players did improve, but it's not like the original Shanghai Dragon players are the ones who then went on to win it or something. Those are completely different teams. The Shanghai Dragons did improve, and they did improve in part playing an owl and scrimming against other owl teams, but they couldn't get a ton of owl scrims, guys. Like, if we're honest about this, the Shanghai Dragons couldn't get a ton of owl scrims in that first season, because that's, I believe, what you're talking about there, where they went 0-40. They had to take contenders scrims, and that's what I'm talking about. You get best when you get to play against people that are a little bit better than you, and most of the league wasn't going to give them that because they were more than a little bit better than the Shanghai Dragons. You made the post and you're literally top 500. Oh, my SR is let's see. My SR is I coached for Phase 2 when we placed in North America. I coached for Sydney Drop Bears when we got second place in Australia, and I coached for Fury when we got second place in South America. I also currently coach for Northeastern, which is a top 16 collegiate team. I've had offers to coach academy teams, all sorts of things. My SR is I know exactly what I'm doing at this game. Uh, okay, so it's cool. Like, it's cool that you're. What did you say? You're top 500. That's cool. I coach a lot of top 500 players, so that's cool. But I guess my comment to you can be stay top 500. It's not good enough. No, my point here is like that's just an argument from authority that you're trying to make of oh you're top 500. I just put my credentials out there to establish greater authority, but I don't actually care. We don't need to make an argument from authority on this. It's not actually useful. Like I already made the argument, and the argument is clear from a standpoint of hey it's a 6v5 thing where no, there are greater chances just based on the numbers for there to be a Smurf on the other team than on yours. And there's a ladder distribution that is enforced. That's why we don't have more Masters players today than we did 4 years ago. It's not a you have to be this good to be a Masters player. It's you have to be in this 3% of the player base to be a Masters player. And if you park extra accounts in there, well, those extra accounts, the ladder is going to see as, oh, well, these extra accounts are making up 3% of the player base, even though it's actually only 1.5% of the player base by number of people, for example. So, yes, Smurfs subjectively are having an impact on other people on the ladder and on the ranks. It's not a, oh, people would actually be 1,000 SR better or even 300 SR better, but yes, they are having an impact. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. There we go. You just got here. What's SVB doing on the graph you just drew? I don't follow. Sorry. Okay. Yikes. Yikes. Okay. Okay. So severely Canadian is fully gone down the rabbit hole, and that's fine. That's fine. Severely Canadian, if you want to make responses to like the 5v6 thing or the how the distribution of the ladder works, that's perfectly fine with me. But that doesn't seem to be what you want to do. So that's fine. Oh, no, it was the 5v6. Got it. It looks like a red SVB. Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. It's cool that you're 4221. Like, that's not in my world a high SR. But that's fine. Like, again, I think 4,700 players make too many mistakes. I have lots of videos over here where we've gone over owl stuff. I, of course, coach lots of players that are better than that. So that's fine. I'm not trying to big league you and be like, oh, I'm so much better than you. That's not my point. I'm just doing this to point out, hey, now let's actually discuss this around the facts, which I'm happy to do, but it doesn't really seem like you're interested. So we'll just move on. Do we have interesting stuff from the rest of it? Whole bunch of people who use alts to practice others, not their main heroes, not strictly smurfing, but surely a better game sense. Right, and that's the sort of thing where I don't consider that terrible. I think most of us are okay with the fact that people have alts. That's a thing that's going to happen, but that does still do more to go, hey, if we're looking at, I don't know, let's look diamond tier, what's 8% of the player base, if you're putting more accounts into here because your alts are ending up here, you are pushing down other people's SR because this is a distribution and only 8% of the active accounts are going to be here. So other people would be a little bit further along there. Okay. Just recently, so that's cool and all. I'm not going to re-explain this 6 times, but like I've gone over this a few times in this video. I also went over it in the post itself, so I'm going to let you rewind and re-see that one. Okay. Okay. There we go. That looks like it. I'm going to go ahead and oh, let me see this. That's going to do it. I think that's going to do it. Let's go ahead and hit a. Oh no, we have comments. If we have comments here, that's fine with me. If we have interesting comments, mm-hmm. Let's jump here because I believe someone responded. Okay, Adrenal Junkie, here's the OP. I've already addressed the argument that there is a higher chance of having a Smurf on the enemy team. Over the long run, the effect of this becomes meaningless, especially compared to the constant, which is your own skill. Over the long run, this becomes over the long run, this becomes meaningless. No, you haven't actually addressed that, but okay. Furthermore, this argument is also disproven by your second point that if you are underranked, you will exert the same pressure on your chance as winning as a Smurf would. This makes it logically impossible to make an argument that someone with a lot of hours, such as Silver plus Border, would have the rank affected by Smurfs. Oh, sure they would. Again, because they have a presence, Smurfs have a presence on the distribution. If we're looking at a distribution curve here, like this still doesn't respond to any of the 2 points that I made in here. And I did make these 2 points in the post. So I believe you're here in chat, but I did make these 2 points in the post. And no, what you're saying here has no impact whatsoever on how the distribution curve works. If they want 3% in Masters, they want 0.5% in GM, they want 8% in Diamond, and that's what happens. So if you have more active accounts, it is forcing some people down. If you had a bunch of Smurfs down here, it would be forcing some people up. That would still be forcing some people down. So no, that doesn't address that whatsoever. Okay. What was that? Right, and agreed having Smurfs doesn't affect your own skill level other than having a chance to practice against them, but that doesn't actually defend your argument. Like, that doesn't defend your argument in any way. There is a higher chance to have a Smurf on the enemy team. Over the long run, the effect of this becomes meaningless, especially compared to the constant, which is your own skill level. No, it doesn't become meaningless. It doesn't become meaningless. You can absolutely apply a disproportionate effect. You can absolutely overcome the Smurfs. You absolutely should overcome the Smurfs. That is how you get better at this game. And again, I've had the Smurf talk before. I linked it in the description in the video below there. And people vastly overestimate the danger, the cause, the number of Smurfs that they run into, the extremeness of Smurfs. People vastly overestimate those things. Smurfs are not like this huge thing that are massively holding people back, and they're not, oh, they should be 1,000 SR better, 600 SR better, that sort of thing. But they do exist, and they do have a net negative impact on people's SR. Like, yes, you are the constant, and the correct way to handle Smurfs mentally is to really mostly just ignore them and go, hey, they don't matter. But that doesn't change the fact that, yeah, they are actually having a small downward impact on your SR. And this OP just misses that completely. Then we have a comment saying, oh, look, it's the brain guy here talking about science. I wonder who that is in our community. Hey, Sire, how you doing? What if you can't improve faster than you throw? That's kind of a you-specific problem, Val. Just recently stopped improving relative to the player base. That's fine. There we go. Magdalena says, if I put my best hero in high gold game, it feels like smurfing and bad, so I don't play my best hero in current elo. Right. If you're making an alt account to work on a different hero, you need to work on that different hero. You don't want to just swap over to your best hero whenever things go poorly, because at that point, yes, you are smurfing. Is the impact of Smurfs really only measured in their impact in SR? What about the match quality? I find that to be the bigger issue personally. I'd agree with you, Circling Dance. I think the bigger issue is their impact on match quality. I think that actually makes the game a lot more painful. That's not really the topic of this discussion or this post, so it's not really what we're going into here, but I think that is by far the bigger issue that Smurfs cause. I'm not overly concerned. I think smurfing in the extreme existence of smurfing in some ways has caused um, is not a good thing, obviously. And yes, it does hurt match quality, and that makes the game less fun for people. So I'd say that is the bigger issue by far than, hey, Smurfs are holding people's SRs back. Again, I've done my thoughts in the other video in the description below of, no, you can beat Smurfs, you should beat Smurfs. Smurfs are not holding you back nearly as much as people think, but objectively, yes, they are lowering other people's SR on the ladders, not just increasing their own. This is a closed environment. For someone to gain SR, someone else is losing SR. If you're putting multiple Smurf accounts in there, other people are losing SR. That's not really right, Adam. Smurfs affect individual match quality, but over a long period of time, you'll end up where you belong. Oh, well, that is right. I mean, yes, you will end up close to where you belong. It is a little bit depressed by the number of Smurfs that are in existence there. But you'll end up similar to where you belong. You can say, yes, you'll end up where you belong, and that's fine. The problem that you run into there is where you belong would actually be a little bit higher if the Smurfs didn't exist. That said, no, your gold player would not now be a Masters player. That's Smurfs are not making that distant difference. Your 2350 player might, however, be a 2475 player or a 2500 player. It's really hard for us to know exactly. The game does not match on both SR and MMR. It matches in terms of skill only on MMR. Correct. Correct. Account levels don't matter. Okay. Yeah, it's not about SRs when Smurfs are in your game. Problem is they make me not want to play the game even more than I already do because it's not fun. So again, you want to be careful there, sire. Like you don't want to over be concerned about Smurfs because a lot of the time things that players identify as Smurfs really aren't Smurfs or they're very insignificant Smurfs. Like I'm sorry, if someone is Smurfing in gold as a plat, like you just don't care about that. And that's a lot of the low level accounts that you see. They're not actually Smurfs, they're people going, oh well, I can't win because my because I'm too stuck in this position, but if I have a new account it'll be higher, that sort of thing. Their MMR is hardened too much, the confidence is hardened too much. Those aren't really a Smurf, it's just a fresh account. But a lot of people, if they start to lose a match at all or see anything at all suspiciously good from someone, will go, it's a Smurf, and then they start to lose the game themselves because they sort of tilt themselves, and that's what you really want to avoid. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, that's gonna go ahead and do it. If you're if you're enjoying the content, please do drop a like. Consider commenting if you'd like to get coaching yourself, so you can get through this SR ridden ladder, or excuse me, this Smurf ridden ladder, so that you can get some help moving up there, get better at this game. You can join my Discord in the description below, and in there you can see what rates look like, what sort of promos, special events we might have going on, all that good stuff. If you want to see more content like this, I do surprise people every once in a while and take stances they didn't expect. As you saw, just recently didn't expect me to take this stance, and it's because I didn't actually take the stance that it looks like I did. I mean, again, Smurfs have very small impact on your SR there, but yes, they are having a negative impact. And no, you should not be tilting over them or really even thinking about them. But when people hear like, who is it, severely Canadian, make statements that are objectively wrong, we are going to correct them. That is what we do. If you want to be here for discussions like this, you can join the Discord. You can react in there to become a watcher. Then you'll get pings, and you'll see when these discussions happen so you can be part of them. Okay, that's going to do it. Thanks, guys.